Hello, and welcome to another How to OU at USU. Very good. Today, I thought we would go over how to create a form in OU campus. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. So as you can see, I already have a basic page set up. You'll need to do that. You can learn how to do that from the other videos. We'll check in the file, and we'll go into edit. The first step in adding a form to a web page is, well, creating that form and creating a spot for that form to reside in. So I just push Shift Enter to create that new tag. My form currently doesn't exist, so I need to go and create that. The way I go and create that is I go up to this content dropdown, click on that, and then I'm going to open up the Assets tab in a new tab. Cool. From there, I will go ahead and create new using the plus mark in the top right corner and create a new form. When you are creating a new form, I highly recommend that you follow the naming convention of whatever site you're on. This is just a dev version, so it doesn't really have any file naming convention, any nomenclature that's set, so we'll just call it form. But you're going to want to do that so that way when you're working on some of these bigger sites that have a lot of assets, it'll be easier to help people keep track of what's what. So we'll just call this one form. For now, we won't include a description, but we could actually, yeah, let's include one. We'll call it social media survey. Social media survey. In fact, that's actually a better name for the form. And for the description, we'll add for 2021, right? Very good. You can include spaces and stuff. Typically when I make these, I do prefer to use snake case, which is when you separate your words with an underscore instead of a hyphen or a space. So let's actually use snake case today. Then the next thing we want to change is this access settings. If we leave it to everyone, then literally everyone will have access to this form within the whole of the university's instance of OU campus. We don't want that because that means that literally anyone can come in and delete it. So we're going to specify a group for that. We're going to just use mine, which is Levi Sanchez, and then we'll also change that available to. You'll want to change both of these because otherwise anyone could come in and just delete your form, and you might not want that, especially if you're trying to collect like survey results or something. So specify to your access group, whichever one it is, and then we'll move on. Then from there, we need to add actual elements. And then we have this email messages option. And then we have these form settings options. If we go ahead and try to create the form right now without any elements or without these options, we actually almost could. We'll get some nice errors to let us know the things that we absolutely have to fix. And the things we absolutely have to fix is the success message and the failure message. So for the success, we'll say, I don't know, thank you for your submission. Cool. And then for the failure message, we'll say, please make the necessary corrections and resubmit the form. And we'll want to keep this save results in database checked. What that'll do is it'll save a copy of every form submission to the actual database. So that way we'll have a reference to it later if we ever need to. The submission button text, if we wanted the button to say something other than submit, this is where we could change that. Advanced, I don't even know what that does. So let's not even worry about that because it's just not important. Not much of a form right now. We don't have any form elements, but let's go ahead and click create, and it is technically created. You can then actually go ahead and put this on your web page. Let's do that. So we're going to want to grab this asset ID. Let's copy that to our clipboard. Also, if we push Control F real quick and we search for that, we can see that it matches the dependency tag. If you don't know what dependency tags are, go ahead and watch the video on that. But let's copy the actual dependency tag. That's what's going to allow us to take this form that we've just created and put it on our actual web page. So let's go back to our web page. And there's a couple of ways that we can include that reference to the form. If I just paste in the asset, it'll actually work. As you can see, it pulled it in, it knew what to do, which is awesome. Another way we can do that is if we go to the source code, we can find the HTML tag we want to put the asset in. In our case, it's this paragraph tag. And we could paste that in there, or you can just type it out. The syntax for assets is always double curly bracket followed by a colon, whatever the asset ID is, and then 2 closing curly brackets. And we can click save, and that'll also work. You can see it there. The other way that we can add assets to our page is by going up to this sort of retweet-like looking icon, and that's our insert asset, and then we can search for it. What did we call it? Social media, I believe. Yep. We can find the asset that we want to include, and in our case it's this one, and we can insert it that way. And we can go ahead and save that. And you can see the form has been added to the page. Because it has no input elements, there's not much there. It's just this submit button. So we need to go back to our form and add some more stuff. So let's do that. Let's go back. I've got the file checked out, so that way I'm the only one editing it, and if someone else needs to edit it, then I'll need to save my work and check it back in, so that way someone else can. Yeah, and then we'll go back to edit. And we'll start by adding some form elements. Now for this form, we're going to ask users for 4 things. Because we've identified that we need to have users provide these 4 things for this survey. We'll ask for name, which we'll use a single line text field for. And then we'll ask for users' phone numbers. And the reason we're going to do that is because in this fake scenario, we're going to ask users about their social media preferences, and then we're going to have a drawing, and we're just going to pick one of them randomly out of a hat, and then we'll use their phone number to text them and let them know that they've won and that they can come pick up whatever the prize is. Obviously this is fake, but that I think is useful because it's going to help us see a couple of extra things. Then we're going to ask 2 multi-line text fields. So I'm going to add those both now. You can come back and add those later. If you ever need to delete one, you can delete 2. If you need to reorder them, you can just drag and drop them, and that'll reorder things. Otherwise, the form elements will appear in the order that they are from top to bottom. Yeah, and I'll add that last multi-line because we do need 2 multi-lines for this. Then if you need to ask something for like radio buttons, checkboxes, all of these standard options are available to us. Cool, so now I've created each of the elements I need to specify what those actually mean for users. So I'm going to do that by first specifying name, just because that might be useful. And then you'll notice right away after I specify the label, this name field gets populated, and you can read this and it'll tell you what it's all about. Basically, that's just what the label in the database is going to be. Because that's what the database is going to use, we can't use any special characters, no hyphens, no spaces, no underscores, no capital letters, nothing like that. If you just tab through it, it'll fill it out for you, or if you want to customize it, you technically can. And we'll look at how to do that here in a little bit. Helper text, so this is the small little, literally is helper text right here. An example of helper text. So it's the text that's going to show up underneath the actual form input so that users will know what to provide. So for this one, we could leave it blank, or we could, let's just leave this one blank. Let's not be condescending to our users. I think they know what their name is. I hope they know what their name is. And then we'll mark it as required. And that's just going to make it so that way users have to provide that form input before they can submit to save to the database. And we're not going to worry about validating this one, and we're not going to worry about failure message for this one. So for this next one, we're going to ask for phone number, like I said, because we're going to require users to give us a phone number. We'll give them a way to opt out too. Yeah, let's go over that right now. So for the helper text, let's say if you would prefer not to provide your phone number, use the use the phone number 12000 hyphen 000 hyphen 0000. This will exclude you from the drawing. Cool. And so that'll give us a chance to see what that helper text actually looks like. Let's make this one required as well. And default text, that's the placeholder text that would fill in the input. So let's go ahead and add hyphen or pound character, hyphen pound character, hyphen 4 of those pound characters. And we do want to add a little bit of validation to this. By validation, we mean we want to specify what users can and cannot submit for this input. Right now, if we just save it and use it as is, users could put technically anything in there and it would be considered valid and get saved to the database. And we don't want that. We want only things that are 3 numbers followed by a hyphen, 3 numbers followed by a hyphen, 4 numbers, actual valid phone numbers. So the way we're going to do that is we'll change validation to regular expression. Now, regular expression, or regex, is a very complicated and confusing field. Let's not even worry about that for now. All you need to know about what regex is for now is that it is a means to match a pattern within a string of text. So we can say, hey, this is the pattern that we want you to match against. And if the pattern that the user is giving us does not match that, throw an error and let them know, so that way they can keep trying until they match the pattern, and so that way they don't submit something to the database that doesn't have the correct pattern. The way we're going to do that is we're going to use the character for a number in regex, which is \d. That says, hey, use a number character, which is great. Now, if we save it right now as is, that's just going to say that the user has to input a single digit. And we don't want that. We want them to input 3 digits followed by a hyphen. So for a hyphen, we're going to use \hyphen, and that's going to say match a hyphen character, followed by \d, \d, and then \hyphen, and then \d, \d. And that's going to say match the pattern that is 1, 2, 3 numbers followed by a hyphen, followed by 3 numbers, followed by a hyphen, followed by 4 numbers. So, and you'll notice that that phone number we provided up here, that 000 hyphen, that matches our pattern as well without actually being their real phone number. So, when they fail, so let's say that somebody tries to input something that's just not correct, we want to let them know what they messed up. That's what this failure message is all about. So we'll specify you need to match the following pattern, and we'll say hyphen, or pound character, or hashtag, or whatever we're calling it these days, hyphen 34. And that lets users know when they make a mistake what they need to do to remedy that mistake. And that's just, good UI right there. We want to provide feedback to our users so that way they know what to expect. All right, for this multi-line item, let's just ask, what is your favorite, I can't spell, that's fine, social media platform, right? And I don't need to worry about not being able to spell right because I have a computer, so it'll spell for me. Okay, if I just tab through that, you'll notice that the database label tries to help me out and just auto-populates, removes all the spaces, all the special characters. And we are going to actually change that because we want it to be just favorite social media. All one word, all lowercase. If you try to use special characters or capital letters or spaces, it won't work. It'll throw an error and you'll have to fix that. Helper text. I think that's pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to worry about adding that. Default text, same idea, not going to worry about it. I will make it required. And I do want to add a little bit of validation to this. I want to specify a minimum length. I'm pretty sure this matches on character count. If users aren't providing at least, 120 characters, we'll say it's too short and that they need to increase the length. So we'll say, please provide more details for our failure message. Details. Cool. And then for this last question, we'll ask, what is your least favorite, see if I can spell this time, social media platform? And it did. Fill in that name field for me. This one we'll just call least favorite. I do want to specify that, least favorite social media. And we'll just call it least favorite because that'll make sense for us. Helper text, not going to worry about. Required, let's make it required, and let's make this 120 characters too. It might be by words, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's on characters. And then we'll just copy this failure message from up above. And we'll save that. So let's go ahead and save that and have a look at what that looks like. And I'll go ahead and publish it. If you don't have publish access, then submit it for approval, because you'll kind of have an idea of how it works because you've watched this video. It'll hopefully get approved much faster, and you'll actually know what you're doing instead of just floundering. So once it's been approved or published, we can go back to our page. It's already been embedded on the page, right? We did that a little bit earlier. So if we hard refresh, we should see, yep, we do, all of the fields pull in and what they would kind of look like. And we can submit that for approval if we're done, or if you have publish access, go ahead and publish that. Leave your description. We'll just say first publish of the social media survey. Social media survey. Cool. That works for us. We'll go back to our web page, and if we hard refresh, Control-Shift-R, or even just a regular refresh, we can actually see that. Right now, though, when somebody provides a form submission, the only thing that's happening is that data is getting saved to a database. That database is here in OU Campus. It's this form submissions. So because we don't have anything in there, we can see that there's nothing in there. Once somebody submits something, it'll get saved there. However, there are instances where we'll want to do something a little bit more useful with that. So let's look at how to do that. And that is, we can use these email messages. So we can add one. And what this will do is every single time a user completes this form, it'll send an email out to a designated email address that you get to pick, so that you'll be aware that somebody filled out this form, and then you can do something useful with that information. So say you're keeping a count, once you get 50 of these emails, then you can go in and turn the form off, so that way you can't get any more submissions, and then you can finish up doing the drawing and collecting the data and doing whatever you need to do with it. So for today, we will specify that we want our emails to go to our howtoou@usu.gmail.com. So we will specify howtoou@usu@gmail.com. For the from, we'll just use no reply at usu.edu. It shouldn't really matter what you use here. It just has to be a properly formatted email address. If you use an improperly formatted email address, just like no reply and that's it, I've noticed it'll give you some weird behaviors and won't work consistently. So you'll want to make sure to include a period, an @ symbol, and preferably your domain name. So for us here at Utah State University, that's going to be usu.edu. Subject, you can specify a subject. I want all of these to be called Social Media Survey 2021. So that way I can set up a filter in my email account that'll take care of these for me, so that way I won't have to be bombarded with all the emails. Also, I'm going to want to set something else that'll help me keep track of those in my email account, and I'll show you how to do that in our next video. From there, though, we also want to include the body. So if we want to include an email message, we can. So here we'll say there was a submission to the social media survey, and that'll get sent. Now, if I save that right now, that's all that this email is going to say. And that might not be useful, right? Because that doesn't tell me any of the actual information that the users provided. And that's the whole point of this, right? So we can click this little checkbox that says include all submitted values, and that will give me a list of all of these fields that the user filled out and what the user actually said. So that way I can do something useful with that data. Okay, makes sense, hopefully. And we'll look at that here in a second. So we're looking good. I'll go ahead and save that. And then if you need to submit it for approval, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, go ahead and publish. And version description, we'll just say added the form input elements. Okay, and we'll publish that. We'll go back to our web page. It's already checked, or not checked out, so we'll check it out real quick. We'll publish it just to make sure all the changes get pushed through to it. We'll go back to our actual web page where we have the survey. Hard refresh a couple times just to make sure it's up to date. And let's go ahead and test this out. So for name, we'll just say name. For phone, let's try to just put some random text in there so that way we can see what that validation will look like. We can see our helper text down there. Also, before I typed in phone, you notice that that placeholder text shows up. So that was the placeholder text that we saw right there. We can look at that real quick just so we can see it. This default text, also known as placeholder, and that's what's right there. So that's our default text, placeholder, and we'll keep that at phone. What was your favorite social media platform? Right now I don't really care, so we're going to go with something just for testing. And then this needs to be 120 characters, right? So let's say I just do something for both of those. Here, we'll just go with one for that. All right, we try to submit it. We have some errors, and we know that. Yep, cool, and we can see what the actual errors look like. We can also see that failure message that we specified before. Please make the necessary corrections and resubmit the form. So we need to match the following pattern. We specify that failure error up here. When we said failure message, you need to match the pattern. So we don't want to use our real phone number because we're not really interested in the survey. So we'll just use 000-000-0000. Then as for this, the way we validated that is that we need 120 characters, right? So we'll just add a couple more somethings. And hopefully that's about 120 characters. If not, we'll get the error again. Oh, same thing. So we'll just double that. So since this is only asking for their favorite social media platform, we would maybe want to go in and change that to not 120, maybe something a little bit smaller. And maybe it's going by words. We'll find out. No, it's definitely going by character count. So yeah, we'd want to normally go in and change that. But for this one, that's more than good enough. And then we get our success message. Our users see that. So cool. And then you can check out the form submissions in OU Campus by going right here. It's just right there. I'm not going to show you that because it's just right there. It just shows it to you in a table. Then we'll go to our email address, and assuming everything is set up correctly, then we should get an email from this form submission with all of the data. Oh, and there it is. It just came through. So give it a minute so it can come through, and we can see that there was a submission to the form, which is what we typed for our body. We can see that we can set the subject line, which is super useful if you want to set up filters or anything like that. And then all of the submissions, and we can see that they follow the naming convention from the database. So it goes name, and then whatever the user input, I put name, phone, same thing, favorite social media, and then least favorite, and then those are all showing up. So from there, once you have enough of your form submissions or whatever, you can go in and turn the form off and do your drawing, whatever else you need to do. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. That's been a how to make a form in OU Campus. So hopefully that's helpful. Thanks, and bye.